Hi, my name is Antonis and I'm the painter in this video. Today you will see me painting this study on painting human skin with oils as my medium, and for this I'm using a reference that was created for me by AI. After a prompt I gave to it to paint me the image of a bearded man that should be painted in the style of the Baroque painters like Caravaggio, etc. So AI gave me this as an image, and it was really interesting to see how this dehumanization, let's say, of painting was used by me here to create this image that is more human and more warm, let's say, than that was originally painted by AI. This is a very huge topic, but I don't want to dive into this right now. How AI will affect uh, the arts in general, it's really huge. Let me just briefly say that I really don't believe that painting and painters have anything to fear about AI. People will always search for images, uh, for paintings and works of art that are genuinely created by human hands. There will always be collectors, people, commissioners who will want something like this. So it's something AI. It's something that really doesn't worry me at all in terms of the arts. Anyway, this, as I say, is a huge topic. But here I want to talk a little bit more on how I approached this. You can watch this, and I perceive this as if I did a study on a work of the old masters. AI gave me a very interesting phase in terms of the use in terms of the skin tones and all of this. So it really intrigued me to see how I can transform and change the image by AI into an alive work of art. So I'm using oils as my medium, and I have transferred the drawing on a panel. And as I always do on my oil painting, I start by first painting the shadows, the facial features on the board. Here I've covered the whole board with a reddish, brown reddish base color, upon which I've painted the dark facial features and the areas of the shadows, and then slowly I want to paint the areas where these shadows meet with the light. So carefully I want to try and define these shapes, and I want to make sure that this transition will be interesting and nice. So the the colors I am using, as I said, are oils, and at this point, on the first at the first stages of painting, I only use turpentine oil as a thinner. I don't add any extra linen oil in my pigments, and I'm just placing the color. I'm not doing any blending here, any serious blending here. Just placing the color. I want to make sure that the colors look correct, look nicely, and slowly I want to define these the areas between light and shadow. The the brush that I'm using is a relatively soft brush, and when as what I always say to my students, is that as we paint, we have to really ask ourselves if the brush does the work that we want it to do. We really have to ask ourselves if it moves the color around in a nice way as we want it, as the want the color to be moved, and if the brush doesn't obey, let's say, in our commands, we should ask ourselves what kind of brush would do the job that we want to do. Maybe we need a more thick, a more hard brush, especially when we paint with oils, and it's also relative to what we want to paint with the oils. If we want a more harsh, more abrupt brush stroke, then a harder brush can do the job. If we want to move tiny amounts of pigment around, then a more soft, more like a Kolinsky brush, then this would be more appropriate. Here I'm using a relatively soft brush. I apply the color as you see. I want to find the shapes of the light. This is what I'm doing here. And let me just say that the red underground, that underpainting that you see, is not oil. This is acrylic painting, so it's completely dry, and it allows me to place the color upon it without smearing the color and creating a mud. So after first having painted this zone in between light and shadow, then I place a more lighter color in the areas that receive more light. I just place the color at this point. I don't again do any serious blending. And as you see, I play around with of course, various tones, but also various hues of the color. You can see that towards the edge, I am a little bit more greenish. I use more cold colors than in the center, where I will become a little bit more pinkish, more rosy, as in the nose that you see here. Um, and of course, when I will blend these various colors around, I will have a very nice, very interesting, visually rich surface, and skin tones that will be much more convincing than just using one kind of color and various tones, but one kind of color and just that. In this way, things become much more interesting. Now you see that I want to do some blending in the way sfumato is done. So with an almost dry brush, I will very carefully, very delicately move the color around a little bit. You see that I wipe my brush on a piece of cloth to clean it and have it almost dry whenever I place it on the pigment. And this way I'm able to remove very finely the color around and create this very smooth, smoky like effect, very much like in the sfumato way of blending. In a very delicate, very subtle way. When painting in oils, we tend to forget that oil painting requires a lot of time and a lot of our attention. We are used to believe that things happen automatically and they happen, very masterfully. Uh, of course, the old masters were able uh, to proceed with painting very quickly in some areas, but there are many areas where the area requires our attention and our full concentration on to what we do, and it really can take some time to do this. So don't be in a hurry. We somehow, when we paint in oils, we think we have to paint in a hurry and to produce things very quickly, but things take their time, and this is how it should be. So here, as you see, I've done a first layer on the face of this man, and I haven't placed the highlights yet, just haven't painted an area that will accept the highlights and the more interesting parts of what's going to follow. Of course, I've given much attention and work on these blending on blending the various tones and the various colors on the face. Uh, you see how just a little dot in the eyes as a reflection adds a lot to the life of the face. And moving on, you can see how by how I do the same process when I want to add the highlights. I place the color and very carefully and um, very carefully I will try to blend it where it needs to be blended. Now the underneath layer is completely dry. Uh, what you see here is after 4 or 5 days after the first layer. This gave me time to paint, to work a little bit on the beard, the mustache and the mouth of this month, of this, excuse me, man. And now I am doing this application of the color and just moving it around with my brush. It's such a different process than painting with tempera, where blending happens upon layers by painting layer upon another layer. Here, when we paint oils, it's a matter of moving the color around along with the various layers if we use any. Here, as I say, this is the second layer, and I will keep adding and blending as it goes. I try to make it visually interesting and convincing as much as I can. You can find more lessons on oil painting on my Patreon page, and let me just thank you so much for your support here and there as well. It's for me it's really important, and it allows me to be full time in my studio and explore painting so much more. So really, thank you so much. Hopefully, my lessons there will be helpful to you, and you can find always something to benefit. No matter if you paint with oils or tempera or acrylics. So here I'm doing a little bit more on the eyes. I want things to be more convincing. When I'm painting, I'm asking questions like, I don't ask if the eye is beautiful or if I painted the eye correctly, but more than that, I ask questions like, is this tone the correct tone? Meaning, is it too dark? Is it too bright? Is the blending how softly it should be? Is this shape correct? The drawing correct? I'm asking this kind of questions as I'm painting, and this is very important and much more practical and useful for the painter rather than asking questions like, oh, is this beautiful? Is this ugly? Um, and then the circle of doubt begins in our minds. I don't know how to paint. No, just know your materials, uh, know your craft as much as you can, and keep asking useful questions as you paint. Then you have to also rely on your eyes and be more confident. I really see so many students that are really afraid to take initiative, to really see themselves what they are painting and correct it themselves. They just always feel locked to be creative somehow. So in this kind of painting, we should proceed with both cautious and create a creative spirit, and really not to doubt too much about what we do. Yes, doubt. A teacher of mine was saying that doubt poisons everything but doesn't kill anything, and that's true. We have to really hope that we can become better. There's always space for improvement, even for teachers, even the arts. There's no end in what you can learn and create if you are an artist. So anyway, this was a brief mention on this study of mine using an AI reference to study the skin tones. Hopefully this was interesting for you to watch. As I say, you can find more on my Patreon page. And I really want to thank you so much for your comments and for your support. It's really I often feel humbled by receiving your artworks and being able to know that my videos can be of some help to you. So really thank you so much. So anyway, thank you again. I will see you soon with another video. Bye.